Welcome back to the channel. Today we were diving deep into Network File System (NFS) on openSUSE Linux. NFS is a protocol that allows you to share files between different systems on a network as if they were on your local machine. I will guide you through setting up an NFS server and client, handling firewalls, and troubleshooting. What is NFS? NFS, or Network File System, is a protocol enabling access to files over a network in a way that feels local. It's essential for environments that require shared resources across machines, centralized data storage, and management. With NFS combined with Network Information Service (NIS), you can centralize user management and permissions across systems. openSUSE installed NFS version 4.2, which introduces support for sparse files, file pre-allocation, server-side clone and copy, application data block (ADB), and labeled NFS for mandatory access control (MAC). Requires MAC on both client and server. Let's install the NFS server. Open YaST and let's open YaST and enter the password. And let's go to software management. Let's hit refresh and load. Go to pattern tab and go down and find the file server, and let's choose it and press accept, continue, and let the installation finish. Like NIS, NFS is a client-server system. However, a machine can be both. It can supply file systems over the network, export, and mount file systems from other hosts, import. There is a note here to focus on. Mounting NFS volumes locally on the exporting server. Mounting NFS volumes locally on the exporting server is not supported on openSUSE Linux. Means if you have a server and you created a share file system to be exported to other clients to mount, you cannot mount this locally. You can, but it is not supported by openSUSE Linux. Okay, so let's now the installation for NFS is closed, and let's close this, and let's move forward with the configuration of firewall. Now let's configure firewall for NFS. I would like to quote 2 lines from the official openSUSE reference manual. They say communication between an NFS server and its clients happens via remote procedure calls (RPC). Several RPC services, such as the mount daemon or the file looking service, are part of the Linux NFS implementation. If the server and the clients run behind the firewall, these services and the firewalls need to be configured to not block the client-server communication. End of quote. So, for NFS version 4, uses TCP port 2049 on the server side only. So, to allow the traffic, here you need to make sure that you know about your active zone right now, the one that using the Ethernet card that you are using, and you enter this command sudo firewall-cmd, don't forget the permanent, add service NFS. This one will open the port 2049, and we add the service RPC bind and the service mount D, and make sure to mention the zone that this service will be active on. These two, later you will know why we add these services here to enable some commands that we will run on the client to get some information from the server. So let's hit enter. Okay, already enabled. So don't forget, after that, sudo firewall cmd and reload. And to check our configuration, let's run list all. And now we have the services, the interface, so all ready to start configuring our NFS server. To configure NFS server, you have two options, using YaST or configure it manually, and we will show both. Go and open YaST, root password, and you go to NFS server, and make sure to choose NFS server to start. And for the firewall configuration, we already did it, and unfortunately till now YaST firewall is not completely finished. And after that, make sure that you enable NFS version 4, because if you didn't choose it here, YaST will support only NFS version 3, and you don't want to do that unless if your environment only the clients working on NFS version 3. So make sure to choose that. Here, enter NFS v4 domain name. So for me here, I will choose Linux Lighthouse. And about that, NFS version 4 domain name, the domain name needs to be configured on all NFS version 4 clients as well. Only clients that share the same domain name as the server can access the server. As you saw, the default domain name for server and clients is local domain. So now I have to make sure that the client, when I'm configuring the client, the domain name will be the same like here, Linux Lighthouse. Here, enabling the GSS security, if you are going to secure your access to the server, it is a prerequisite for this is to have Kerberos installed on your domain and to have both the server and the clients Kerberized. So here you choose that if you have a Kerberos configured server on your domain. So I don't have it now, so I will not choose it. Kerberos, I will make a video about it in the future. So let's go next. Here, this from an old configuration. Here you can choose the directory that it will be shared with the client. So here I will add a directory. I can browse my file system. I will go here and I will choose this pre-created folder I created before. I choose and I say OK. And as you can see that here, host wildcard and the options. Here, the options for the mount point, that when this shared file system would be mounted on the client. For the host wildcard, indicate all machines can access the server. Here you can specify by IP, by network range. So here I can add my network range like that. So only the IPs on this network range can access this folders. Okay, this folder, the one I chose now. So if I press OK, now I have the configuration for this server. If you notice, if I go and I highlight the first one, here it has the same configuration. So to make a differentiate, let's edit this one, and this one I will make it wildcard for all machines to be accessed. So the second one is only for the network range I have. Okay, so once you finish, you hit and let YaST do the configuration. Now we have a working NFS shared folder. To clarify this, okay, let's do sudo system control status NFS server, and it is running now because YaST started it for us. Export FS, and it will show you the exported file system that you shared with the clients to access your server. So now let's move forward and show how to do the configuration manually. To export file system manually, you need to edit /etc/exports file to specify directories for export. Each entry following this format: shared directory, space, host, space, option list. So let's take some examples for that. For this example, I created these directories under the path, which is /srv/nfs4_exports/, and we have three directories: DevOps_team, IT_department, and public. So let's go and open that file, etc exports. Okay. And let's see the structures here. The first line is from before, the second one when we created the shared using YaST. Let's take a new line and we create the first one, which is NFS 4_exports. Okay. Public. This one will be the same like the first line here. So I can take this copy and I paste it here. The other one is NFS 4_exports/IT department space, and we can use a full domain name like it.example.com, and we put the options here: read, write, sync, and root_squash. And the last one is we can specify by IP: NFS 4_exports. It was DevOps_teams, DevOps_team, and here it will be by IP 22 and 50, and we put the options here: read, write, sync, root, squash, and let's add this option. And for this option, if you review the manual man NFS, it will give you enough description for each, because the cases are huge for using these options, and it will take a long time to cover them all. So for the first two here, read, write, it's so obvious, like you want to share this one. Here the public, I want it read only, and the second one read, write, and the third one is read, write. Let's save this file, and after any editing manually in this file, you have to do sudo system control restart NFS server, because YaST do this automatically after you change or edit or add a path to be shared using NFS. And if you want to check your exports on the server, sudo exports fs, export fs, and we will see now we have the shared. But let's review the file again, because we can see that two of them, they have shared to the world. Here we have the IP for DevOps team, and we have the public as asterisk. So let's remove the space here and here, no spaces. And let's do the restart again. And now we can see the shared we have, and we added to the file. There is another file /etc/sysconfig/nfs file. This one contains a few parameters that determine NFS version 4 server daemon behavior. It is important to set the parameter NFS for support to yes, which is the default. NFS 4 support determines whether the NFS server supports NFS version 4 exports and clients. Always ensure consistency with user IDs across systems using NIS or LDAP for unified domain authentication to not face any kind of, let's say my user here having the UID 1000. So make sure that on other servers, the same user have the same ID to not face any kind of conflicts, or some users will get some kind of permission that they don't have to, like another username should not have an access to this NFS for any reason, and it happened that it had the same UID as the server, but the username is different. Like here is penguin, the other one is, let's say, chicken. So we'll be able to access the file system and maybe write something or delete something, which is a permission that he hasn't to get it from the beginning. Okay, so before continue and going ahead to create the configuration for the client, to setting up the client, let's check this file etc sysconfig nfs. We forgot the vi, and let's check the NFS 4. It's already there. This is the variable that you have to make sure that it is mentioned, yes, for NFS 4 support. For the parameter inside the file exports, let's cat on it, and for this read only, sync, no subtree check, and sync root squash. So these will be in man exports, and let's check them. So let's check like that. Read right here, allow both read and write requests on this NFS volume. The default is to disallow any requests which changes the file system. For read only, we can search like that till we get within. You can go to next, and here let's talk about it before we go ahead. No subtree check. This option disables subtree checking, which has mild security implications but can improve reliability in some circumstances. So each of these options, you can review it in the manual, and according to the case in hand, you choose what is right for the shared file system you want. Let's check the sync one. Let's go up to the file and we search for sync, and here we have a sync and sync. Sync is reply to requests only after the changes have been committed to stable storage, which is better, especially if you are in an enterprise environment. For async, this option allows the NFS server to violate the NFS protocol and reply to requests before any changes made by that request have been committed to stable storage. So better you use sync instead of async. The other option, root underscore squash. Let's check this one, root underscore. Let's see where. So we continue, and yeah, root squash here, map requests from UID GID 0 to the anonymous UID GID. Note that this doesn't apply to any other UIDs or GIDs that might be equally sensitive, such as user, bin, or group staff. Okay, so as you can see, the options are many, and to cover them all it will take long time. So according to the case in your hand, you should go through these options for the mounts and choose what is suitable for your own case. Okay, so now let's move forward for setting up some clients. To configure your host as an NFS client, you don't need to install additional software. All needed packages are installed by default. But let's connect to our client and check. Okay, enter your username. And if we do RPM and a query for all installed packages and try to search for NFS client, so this package is installed. For YaST, because you can configure a client in two ways, the same as the server, using YaST or manually. So let's check YaST to make sure that the module is there. If you cannot see NFS client here, so let's quit. The package you need to install is YaST 2-nfs-client, and let's add here details to see what's going on, and you press enter, and now these two packages will be installed. Hit enter, and again it's straightforward. Now we can show YaST from command line, because usually we show YaST in GUI. We need sudo or root privilege, and we go again to network. Now we can see NFS client. We choose NFS client, and let's initialize. And now, as you can see, the window of the of NFS client configuration in command line. And for choosing a specific option, you will notice that it starts with the letter that you can choose. Here we have add, okay, cancel. So let's start with, let's cancel here. Okay, Alt C, you use the Alt with the letter, and here I will quit. And let's check our file system if there is. Okay, so sudo, let's check the, here we will share the public. Okay, and you can see from the client it's IP50, so this one we will be able to mount, and the public we will be able to mount, and NFS share we will be able to mount, and FTP also we will be able to mount. Here, because it is public, asterisk for everything, for anyone to be able to mount. Here is specific to this network, and the public again with asterisk, and it is read only. So I'm going to mount public and DevOps teams. So let's create these two directories, and the rest are V. Okay, we can dev team, it was DevOps team, and for shell, if you're going to create two directories, you can put it in curly braces like that, and don't forget to close it. The second one is public. Okay, and hit enter. If we check the folder again, we will see that the two folders are created here. Okay, so let's go and run YaST again and go to NFS client. And to add a new mount here, but again, before we go ahead, let's Alt C to cancel and Alt Q. Yeah, sorry about that. I just have many things in it. So YaST will do everything in the background to start a service and make sure the mount will go ahead. So let's hit Alt A for adding NFS server hostname. So you can put the IP of the server. This is the IP of our server, and the remote directory as srv Let's start with the public. The mount point here, you can browse, by the way, and we can go and choose SRV and public and alt. Okay. For the options, leave it defaults for now, and you can go. I'm moving with the tab. So we press OK. Now we have the first one is mounted. We will leave the other one for a manual to show the manual configuration for a client. Alt OK. Now here mounting, you read the message. Unexpected situation found in the system. Click below to see more details. Continue despite the issue. Let's check the details. Command pin mount NFS failed. Created symbolic link, run system D. Target. Okay. Access denied by server while mounting. Exit. Okay. Let's abort here, and that's good. Real life troubleshooting and system control status NFS. Okay, let's enable this service. This is for the client. Enable, and now, and don't forget sudo. Let's hit enter, and let's try again. Sudo YaST network service NFS client. And yeah, there is also another option we need to enable here for the client, which is firewall cmd, and here list all. Okay, we need sudo. Okay, so let's check firewall cmd, and here get active zones. Okay, we have the zones active, so we need to move this to the default. So let's use sudo here, firewall cmd, and zone public. Okay. Okay, here zone equal public, and change interface equal eth1, and don't forget the permanent, and okay. Okay, and let's do reload for the firewall, and let's check list all, the sudo. Okay, now we have this, and the NFS already enabled the service on the firewall. So let's go again to YaST and do the share. Okay, NFS client. Okay, let's go add, and here the IP and the remote directory SRV. Let's check the here sudo to check again the exported file systems on your server. Okay, we had the folder name was wrong. If I want to share, I should share this /srv. So this one, okay, and the DevOps, it is starting with NFS4 underscore exports. So here NFS4 underscore exports. So that was the cause of the error. Public, and let's browse again and choose where the file system will be mounted. Here public, and Alt O for OK. We leave the default Alt O, and then Alt O again. Okay, we still have error. Okay, reason given by server, no such file or directory, but we already here NFS4 underscore exports public. Okay, let's import. There is another option from the let's quit that, sudo show mount -e and the IP of the server if you are in doubt and you want what the server is offering. And we can see here it's exports. So let's take this one, copy, and we go again. Okay, network NFS client. Because these cases, usually you might face it in real life. NFS server host name is, okay, the IP, and here we will paste, and let's browse again, and we go to where we will mount, and we will press OK, and again OK. So what's going on here? There's two mount failed, mount NFS mounting. Okay, public failed, reason given by server, no such file or directory, but it is there. Let's do continue and we will see what's going on. And let's quit here. So let's check etc fs tab, because YaST should add here by, you don't need to do anything. YaST will add a line for the mount point in /etc fs tab. Okay, so this is the path. If we go and check here, it's NFS4 underscore exports / public underscore exports public, same name, NFS4. Okay, so let's try sudo mount -e. Maybe we will get more information here. Reason, no such file or directory. So have we had the IP wrong? No. So what might be the error? So again, I just realized it's a human error, and we can go ahead and let's go open YaST. It's the name of the path. I forgot that the path is starting with /srv also. So we can go here and we do edit, and we go to the mount point. Okay, this one here. Before that, there srv that /. So let's do OK, and again OK here. So now it is going through, no errors. If we do df -h, okay, it is not mounted. Maybe we need to do manual mount. Access denied by server while mounting. Okay, that's different error. Now we need to fix it. So I was able to do editing and cut all of that, but I took the chance to show some kind of troubleshooting when you face a problem in real life. When you are doing that, it's not that everything is like magic. You have to find your way out. So when I run the command mount -a, as we said earlier in the other video, that it will go through the FS tab line by line and try to see if there is no mount point. It will try to mount it again. You can see that we have the option V for verbose output, and it will show you what exactly the command is trying to do, or what type of error it faced through the way. So from that, I noticed that the error is not only on the client, it is from the server itself. So when I went there, I found that also I forgot to write the full path of the shared file system from the server. So we can do it manually, and we can go here and we add SRV for the three of them. SRV. Okay. And on the server, don't forget that when you do any manual editing, you need, actually you must, if you want your configuration to be affected immediately, system control, restart, NFS server. You have to restart the server service. So let's try again. And now it is successfully mounted. So if we do df-h, we have the mount point is mounted now. So we show it manually, and I mean using YaST. So we can continue also by showing the other one, this one, DevOps teams. Let's go here, sudo vi etc fstab, no, not fstab, is exports here. Yeah, I was right, fstab, because we are on the client. And we can add the new line here for fstab. This is the manual way to have a mount point for a shared NFS file system. So I can simply YY for copy, and then the letter P to copy the same line and make it in a new line. And I will go here and edit DevOps team, and here SRV DevOps team, and I save and I quit. Let's check our path. Yeah, it's already there. So all you can do here, no services needs to be restarted or reloaded. All you need to do is to use the mount. So again, it is successfully, if we do df-h, and we will see the two mount points are running here. And from what you guys noticed, that 90% of the time, the errors happening is mostly human error. Okay, it doesn't have to be the software itself. So make sure that you are writing everything right, the path, and your configuration, the service is up or not, firewall is enabled or not. All these small things, you have to connect the dots to make sure that everything going with you smoothly. So let's go ahead and move forward. Also, before we move forward, we have to add that on the client, the most important service to make sure that it is running is the system control status NFS for the client, because this service takes care of running RPC port mapper on your server to be able to mount from a remote server. And again, this command, if you didn't notice, export fs, show mount -e, and the IP of the server, it will show you the shared file system from that server. Okay, with what can, or which server or which network can access this shared folder. Okay. One more thing we need to mention here from the client side. By default, if you leave the options default here, and let's open sudo vi etc fstab. So when the server is starting up, okay, the client services for NFS will try to mount these mount points during the boot. Okay, so now maybe the network has an issue, so the boot will delay till the server is reachable and the mount point is successful, the mounting is successful. So in that case, you have two options to add with the defaults here. you can add no auto. So in that case, the system booting procedure, it will not try to mount this file system. Okay, or you can do something else, that using this net dev, and this one prevents the system from trying to mount the share before the network is available. So according to your case and the situation that you want your client to handle this mount points, it's up to you. So you have these two options, no auto, like here this one. If I add here no auto and I saved, so the first one, if I restarted my system now, this one will not be mounted. It will wait me to mount it manually using the command mount. But this one will not start mounting this shared file system on the client till the network services is up on the system, not before. It will make sure about that. So whatever the case that you have in hand, it's up to you. So keep in mind these two options because they are handy. So that's all for this section. So far we have talked about configuring a network file system share server, and we talked about setting up a client to mount the shared file system, but we cannot ignore talking about the automount service. So let's start with what is autofs. Autofs is a Linux service that automatically mounts directories when they are accessed and unmounts them after a set time of inactivity. This on-demand behavior is managed by the automount daemon. Here is how it can benefit you. Performance: reduces overhead by mounting only when necessary. 2. Efficiency: saves bandwidth, especially useful for network-mounted directories, which is better than leaving the mount point in FS tab. The mount point will be always mounted. The resources will be always used for CPU, memory, and network bandwidth. So now let's talk about installing AutoFS. By default, AutoFS is not installed on openSUSE, so you need to install it by running sudo zipper install, and let's add details and AutoFS. Yeah, this is the server. We need to log into the client. Okay, let's enter the password, and here we are on the client. This AutoFS is usable for the client side, not for the server, because you will use it as an automount service. Zipper install details. Okay, AutoFS, and hit enter. Once it's installed, AutoFS will be ready for configuration. It's already installed, so let's move forward for the configuration. So now let's talk about configuring AutoFS. Before we start, make sure that you have two terminals open, one for your server and the second one for your client. The first one, we are showing the shared folders or paths that we configured for the NFS share on our network. And the second tab here to talk about the thing that we are going to use for the AutoFS configuration. The first thing, this will be my main path for the mount points coming from the server to be mounted on my client. So this path will be taken as the root file system or the start point of the share. In other words, it will act as the root for all the NFS mounts on the client. Okay. Now the configuration of AutoFS involves two main files. The first one is the master map file, this one, /etc/auto.master. And we have the map files, which defines the specific directories or networks to be mounted. In our case, I will create a file called /etc/auto.fs. This file, auto.nfs, can be any name, but by convention and in the official manuals, try to make this file start with the word auto dot. The name here is a distinguished name for you. Like here I'm using NFS. Maybe you are mounting for CIFS Windows Share File System. So here on Linux it will be SMB. Okay, so I will create this file. The main configuration file, as we said, is /etc/auto.master, okay, which controls the directories and maps. So let's open this file. Here, sudo and etc auto.master. Okay. So here this file has some information. You should go through them and try to get a hint about what is going on. And I will take a new line here. And as I said, here I will mention the one that will act as a starting point or at the root for all the NFS mounts on that client, which is srv NFS 4 underscore okay, let's check it again what I name it. srv NFS 4 mount. Okay, and this path has nothing beneath it, no directory is created. So here mount, and you take one space, okay, and from where the mount points or the mapping coming from is from etc auto.nfs. This is the file that we will write our configuration for the mount points. Okay, let's save that. Before we continue, we need to go to ETSFS tab and we comment these two lines and we unmount them. Okay, so let's check here. So we need to unmount this one and this one. Okay, we forgot the sudo. Okay, so now let's check again. Nothing is mounted. Okay, so again the line we wrote here in this file, not fs tab, is auto dot master. This one here, okay, this line tells auto file system to look at auto.nfs for mount details under the /srv/nfs4 underscore mount directory. Okay, so again that's /srv/nfs4 underscore mount. It will be the mount point for autofs to create when accessed, and it will act as the starting point, the root file system for the mount points that when it would happen. We are going in AutoFS, we have two types of mounting. When we start writing in /etc/auto.nfs, we have direct mounts. We use the full path for the mount point, and we have indirect mounts. Okay, and this will specify only the subdirectory. So we already in auto.master, we wrote the starting point or the root or the root file system that it will be treated as the root file system for NFS mount points. So now let's to edit the /etc auto NFS as we showed before. Let's from the client show mount -e and the IP of the server, okay, to show the mount points. So we are going to mount the DevOps team, okay, and the public one. So these are to the path we will mount in our file. So sudo vi etc nfs auto.nfs. So now here where the mount point will be mounted. So I will write public, and you take space, and then fs type. Here you write your options. If you want the file system to be mounted as a read-only or read-write, but I will leave it because we already specify that on the server, so it will be mounted in the same defaults coming from the server. And here we will write the full path. It's like a full domain name for the shared NFS, which is the IP of the server, okay, and the actual mount point shared on the server, which is srv NFS4 exports public. Okay, so the other one, I can copy this, and here I will write DevOps underscore team, and here the mount point coming from the server, DevOps underscore team. Okay, so now let's save this file, and again to check here, it is /srv NFS4. Let's cat on this file just to review what we wrote there. Here at /srv NFS4 underscore exports /DevOps underscore team. Okay, and here for the public. Okay, so after you finish your configuration, let's check the service for autofs. It is not started, so make sure that the service is started and enabled for when the server gets booted. So here enable, and now this command will enable the service to be started on boot, and it will start the service immediately. So we hit enter, and now let's check the mount point. Okay, so I will do srv NFS, and I will just write the path like that. So when we do, so now see, it is automatic. It's automatic mounted or auto mounted already. If I did the same to DevOps team, and I do df again, because ls is like I'm accessing the path, it's already auto mounted. So after some time, if I didn't access the this path, okay, it will be unmounted to save resources of the system. From where this time comes, okay, you can specify the timing, the timeout, okay, in two places. You cannot define them in, it's like the first one, sudo bi etc autofs.conf. Okay, this one you will find the timeout here is in seconds, 300 seconds. You can change the value here, but whatever the value is here, it can be overwritten if you specify this value in auto.master. So here I can come at the end and I add timeout equal 10 seconds. Okay, so I save that and make sure to restart the autofs to get the new value. Restart. Okay, so df-h, nothing is mounted anymore because I already restarted the autofs. Let's simulate that again by doing ls, and here public. Okay, and let's check. Now they are mounted, and after 10 seconds these two mount points will be gone. If you are not accessing these passes or no read write or anything, they will disappear from being mounted. So let's try again. Should be mounted soon. Okay, let's wait. And now they are gone, not mounted anymore. So this is a quick configuration for the Auto NFS. Again, Auto NFS has a long list of configuration and options. You may like to check the auto mount manual, and also you would like to check the auto fs manual. You have to, and probably the 5, okay, for the system configuration, and you have some examples there according to the case in hand and the situation you need a configuration specifically for it. So we cannot cover them all in one video. Okay, so let's move forward. Now there is an important thing we have to talk about. We cannot ignore it, which is managing access control lists, or ACL. So according to the official manual of openSUSE, the reference manual, in brief, in Linux, access control lists, or ACLs, extend the standard read, write, and execute, the RWX, or read, write, execute permissions for user, group, and others. The one we use, UGO for short. However, there is no single standard for ACLs beyond these basic permissions. Linux offers two main types of ACLs for more detailed control: the draft POSIX ACLs and NFS version 4 ACLs. Draft POSIX ACLs, while widely used, were never officially standardized by POSIX. Then we have NFS version 4 ACLs, which were developed specifically for the NFS version 4 network file system. NFS version 4 access control list aim to bridge compatibility between POSIX systems on Linux and Win32 systems on Microsoft Windows. It's important to note that NFS version 4 ACLs cannot fully implement draft POSIX access control list, which is why there is no attempt to map POSIX style access control list on an NFS version 4 client using commands like set file access control, for short setf ACL. If you are working with an NFS version 4 file system, draft POSIX access control lists are not supported, even in emulation. And instead, NFS version 4 access control lists need to be used directly. For example, while setf ACL can manage access control list on NFS version 3, it is not compatible with NFS version 4. To handle NFS version 4 access control list on openSUSE, you can use the NFS 4-ACL-tools package, which includes NFS 4-get f ACL, NFS 4-set f ACL, and NFS 4-edit ACL. These tools work similarly to get file access control list and set file access control list, allowing you to view and modify NFS version 4 access control list, as long as the NFS server supports NFS version 4 access control list fully. However, any limitations on the server side may restrict which access control entries, or ACS, are possible. Finally, note that it is not supported to mount NFS volumes locally on the exporting NFS server itself. In summary, understanding the distinctions between draft POSIX access control list and NFS version 4 access control list, as well as the specific tools available, is crucial for managing file permissions in more complex Linux environments. So I had to mention these points because we cannot ignore it, but also in the same time, my main goal here on the channel to talk only about the things that fully supported by openSUSE or SUSE company. Anything is not supported, I will mention it, but I cannot go deep with it. So let's move forward. Troubleshooting common issues. In some cases, you can understand the problem in your NFS by reading the error messages produced by using journal control -xe, and don't forget sudo. Okay, if something happened to the NFS and you want to check the messages, what's going on. Also, you can check the /var/log and messages. Okay, now we need sudo. So from here also you can get any messages related to NFS. You can go through it and you can read if there is any something happen with the NFS with the mount points. So let's say some other cases you need to go deeper to understand the issue. You can use a packet capture with tcpdump, and this command can be run on the client and on the server. And in some cases, if you are in doubt with the network integrity end to end between the server and the client, it is better to run this command on the client and on the server. The structure of this command, sudo tcpdump -s0. This one prevents packet -I for interface, in our case ETH1, and -w for writing, and the output will be a binary file. Let's name it NFS -debug. Okay, .cap. Usually this is the extension for TCP dump files to end it with .cap, and the argument host and the IP of the other end. So now I'm running this command on the client, so I will put the IP of the server. Okay, and you hit enter. So you can open another terminal and let's like SRV, NFS, and public. You can go cd or try to create a file or to create a directory to see if there is any, just to make the TCP dump to collect some data happening between the two servers, or if you already have an issue, it will show up in the file after some time and you are sure that you collected enough data. So now you want to read the file, sudo tcpdump -r and the path of the file. Okay, let's use less so we can go through the file, and here you can check the file and the connection between both the client and the server. Also you can run the command on the server to check, and as we said, in some cases capturing the data at either the NFS client or NFS server is sufficient, but however, in cases where end-to-end network integrity is in doubt, it is often necessary to capture data at both ends. There is also another thing which is rpcdebug, considered as advanced debugging to in-depth troubleshooting. This command allows an administrator to set and clear the Linux kernel's NFS client and server debug flags. Setting these flags causes the kernel to emit messages to the system log in response to NFS activity. This is typically useful when debugging NFS problems, but we have to say that this tool provides extensive debugging but requires experience with NFS internal to interpret. And I mean here by NFS internals, the NFS source code. Okay, so this command simply sudo rpc rpc debug. Okay, for -m is for module, and here the module is NFS. If you want to add a flag for that, if I didn't write anything, it will list for me the flag that I want to add. So whatever the flags here is for the case in hand, or you want to get more information about it, you can add it here. So now the Linux kernel will start to insert messages related to NFS according to the flag that you mentioned. If you want to clear it back, let's say for an example, stat. Now I inserted this. Yeah, you will not get any output, but now the Linux kernel will emit these messages related to that flag. If you want to clear it, you can just do -C to clear that flag. Let me switch to root. Also, we have other few commands like NFS stat. This will give you a general IO stat for the NFS. And also we have NFS IO stat. We are here on, yeah, we have to, okay, let's like this, SRV, NFS mount, public. Okay, so run the command again and you will see, of course, this message because there was no NFS mount points there. So from this also, let's check the help, and we have some arguments here to sort NFS mount points by operations or seconds. If you want to run this command in a continuous way, you can use the watch command before it again, because we have a timeout. So again, let's initiate the mount point, and you can watch from here the read and write for NFS. Now you are ready to set up NFS on openSUSE Linux for seamless file sharing across your network. If you found this guide helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more openSUSE content. Thanks for watching.